Hello, everyone. Faith and Fitness by Garth live stream. And today we are going to talk about vanity. And please forgive me for that noise in the background if you hear the lawnmower. They just decided to mow the lawn at this time. The neighbor having their lawn mowed. So disregard that the best you can. And today we are going to talk about vanity. There's an obsession with vanity I see, and it's like very pervasive, especially with people my age or younger. I would say it's especially worse with I'd say the teenage generation to like 30 something, where everyone is just obsessed with looks. And, I'm an advocate for someone trying to, get in shape and look their best. But what's on the inside is matters the most. Your actual personality, the way you actually treat people, all those things matter to the Most High. And yes, we want to honor the Most High with taking care of our bodies. There's nothing wrong with, trying to look your best, but there's a point where it becomes an obsession and it leads to narcissism. And a lot of people are, you know, a lot of influencers here on the internet are telling young guys that if they're not a certain height, they won't be able to find a mate or, get in a relationship, or that they have to have a certain jaw size to be able to be acceptable to society, or if you want to gain notoriety. And it's all nonsense, really, honestly. So I have a couple of articles talking about it in videos, and we're going to basically focus on more about this looks maxing nonsense that's popular on TikTok, Instagram. Also, we're going to talk about, height. There's men who are under 6 feet and want to, get height surgery, this crazy height surgery, so that they could get a certain height to feel better about themselves, or to get more attention, or to get people to like them. And it's kind of pathetic and sad to see where we're at in society. But the scripture said that in these times people would be vain and lovers of themselves, and they wouldn't be followers of the Most High or God, or they wouldn't be, they'd be leaning towards their flesh and not trying to seek the kingdom and His word, so to speak. And just a couple of scriptures that talk about vanity. And this one is 1 Samuel 16:7. And I'm putting it in the chat. Oh, I wish it was one comment, but here we go. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as men see. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. And that's basically, for context, that was Samuel seeking out the next king of Israel, and particularly that king turned out to be King David. And the Most High chose David because of his heart, and he wanted to follow the Most High. He wanted to do what was right and what was righteous. He wasn't, focused on what David looked like. To juxtapose that, King Saul, who was the first king of Israel, everyone loved him. Everyone was enamored by his height and his physical appearance. It said that no one came to his shoulders in all of the, throughout the nation. And he looked the part, but he wasn't the part. Didn't have the character that King David had, and he was a person that wanted to get people's recognition, and he did things out of the will of the Most High, and he lost the kingdom to King David because he was a person who was vain and wanted to basically show off and wanted to look cool, for lack of a better term. So, really, I wanted to speak about not being so preoccupied on your looks, because this flesh, our body, it's wasting away each day. You get older, for me, I'm 36, and it's seemed like just yesterday I was 21, and I was going to the gym. I was trying to look my best so I could get as many girls as possible. And, I wanted people to see me, and, I wanted to look as good as possible. But I realized all those things were a lie, and it really didn't bring me happiness. And what I've noticed is a lot of people have, you know, a lot of people always have, said that I've, look good or work, see me working out. But in retrospect, I think a lot of people just like me for who I was because of the way I treated people, and, trying to be as sincere and authentic as possible. I didn't think it was so much of how I looked. And, people wanted to be around me because they saw the light in me. And that's what the Most High wants you to do. He wants you to show your light through his word and your righteousness, and how you treat other people, and what you do in front of other people is a reflection of him and him working through you. It's not about how you look or how much money you have or what type of car you drive. So I have another scripture talking about vanity, and it is Proverbs 31:30. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. This could apply for both men and women. You know, yes, people are charmed by the outer appearance, you know, the lust of the flesh. Obviously, we are, fallen by nature, and we are fooled by how a person looks. And when you realize that some of these people, like celebrities or just people in general that look good, you realize once you talk to them or get to know them, that they really aren't the best people that you want to be around. They're very vain, superficial, and really only care about themselves. And that this is the trend where people are, following celebrities and social media instead of, working on their character, on what's on the inside. They're primarily focused on their looks, and your looks, again, are a trivial thing to focus on, because day by day you're getting older. Only thing that you can refine and make better or work on or progress on is what's inside your character. And the last scripture I have, and let me highlight this, For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds to the promise for the life as also for the life to come. So basically, that's saying yes, it's good to take care of your body and to exercise, but it's not going to, like, God isn't gonna like see you and say, "Oh, you have such a great body. I'm going to bless you based on your appearance." He's blessing you based on your works and how you treat people and how you are a representative of his kingdom. And I have articles speaking about what I was talking about earlier, looks maxing and what it's about. And this is BBC, and let me just present it as well. Sculpting jaws, giving scores inside the world of looks maxing. Marvin ponders his attractiveness before giving himself a solid 7 out of 10, which is really ridiculous, giving yourself a number to uh, your appearance, because honestly, people, it's not everyone, you know, can agree upon beauty. It's rarely something that's objective. It could be subjective to others, and that's what we're living in. People are giving people's numbers based on look and based on what social media tells them. And it says, Marvin says, "I'm not happy with my skin, eye bags, and my jawline could be better." I mean, like, if you go back 30 years, or if I told my uncles or my dad or any man back in, like, I don't know, the 80s, 70s, 60s, and you told them that men were worrying about their jawlines, what their um what their skin looked like, they'd be laughing. Those things aren't what men should be valuing. And I didn't even put the article up there. I'm working on it. I'm working on my YouTube live stream skills. Thanks for those who are watching or will watch later. And what else would I do? I don't want to go over the whole article. I just want to get to the, you know, important points. Basically, they're talking about how he wants to get a certain look so he could get attention. Again, all vanity. And it says, "Welcome to the online world of looks maxing, where a growing number of young men are going to great lengths to get what they see as the perfect face and body, and therefore the perfect life. Men are carrying out a range of daily tasks, from workouts in the gym and good skincare routine known as soft maxing, to taking growth hormone and unregulated peptides. If you don't fit this aesthetic and you're not at least working to change the way you look, then you're at risk at falling into the sub 3 category." So based off of your looks, you're either a 7 or a sub 3, as they call it, which is all ridiculous. And this kid on YouTube is the one of the big prominent figures, Clavicler, or whatever his name is. He's the one who's going online making videos telling young men that they need to, get jaw surgery, they need to take steroids and growth hormones so they could get that look, so then they'll be able to get influence and status. It's all really nonsense. And the rest of the article you could read, and I'll go on to the next article. Let me present this. Oops, I did not need to do that. Inside looks maxing, the extreme cosmetic social media trend. Online communities that present a dangerous view of male beauty are growing in popularity. When does a quest for self improvement become something darker? I believe in taking care of myself in a balanced diet and rigorous exercise routine, says Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. That's a wild movie. I remember that movie. That's basically the perfect embodiment of what um, is popular and what men are being brainwashed to think they need to be like. American Psycho has been a subject of numerous online debates, with the audience split between young men who are in on a parody and those who are decidedly not. In the latter group exists the internet looks maxing community, with roots in online incel. That's a very pervasive thing as well. Being an incel, involuntary celibate. Forums looks maxing claims to be the maximization of one's appearance. The aim of looks maxing is to becoming the most attractive one can possibly look, according to a set of prescribed criteria, with particular importance given to jawlines, eyes, and physiques. The trend existed for at least a decade, but has recently been popularized and redefined on TikTok, where it is reaching a widening demographic of teenage boys algorithmically predisposed to the manosphere subculture. Looks maxing attaches scores to aspects of male appearance, focusing particularly on jawline, muscularity, and skin. Looks maxers aim to increase their scores via soft maxing, which is other ridiculous stuff. They're talking about uh, moisturizing is an example of soft maxing. And an example of hard maxing is steroid use and hair transplants or cosmetic surgery. And that is just uh, one example. Shalom, Eric, brother Eric. Today, I'm talking about looks maxing. Can you believe it? Men are being taught to work on their physical appearance instead of following the Most High, instead of, finding productive things to help society get better, or to help or be a better representation of his kingdom. That's what I'm talking about today. And you could read that article. I put it in the chat. And I have some videos talking about looks maxing in more detail. And then I will give a commentary.
Into the mainstream, appealing mainly to boys and young men. It's an effort to maximize your looks, often taken to the extreme. The goal to achieve what looks maxers call ascension, or what they consider the optimal measure of beauty.
We're operating in a society that's extremely shallow.
Kareem Shami is a looks maxing influencer with more than 2 million followers across social media.
We're not saying go past your genetic limits and go into extreme measures, but try to optimize your lifestyle around your appearance.
So what is the ideal male face? Controversial looks maxer Clavicular says he has an idea.
The most attractive man in the world, I would say that in terms of harmony percentage, it's like a very objective thing. This is not really based on like an opinion of mine. Would be Matt Balmer.
The actor's looks celebrated in online forums where looks maxers discuss their ideal appearance: a chiseled jawline, specific facial ratios, and eyes one eye width apart. Balmer himself does not appear to be affiliated with the movement. And while some methods are focused on skincare or facial exercises,
start with your preferred facial cleanser.
Clavicular says he went to extreme measures to achieve his desired looks.
I've done like a lot of things like fat dissolvers, like I've injected lipolysis agents into my face, was a big one. And bone smashing.
And he's not alone. Bone smashing has become increasingly popular.
Do you guys know about bone smashing?
People taking massage guns or even hammers to the face.
Smash them bones, baby!
All to cause minor damage to the bone underneath in hopes that it will heal in a more pronounced way.
You're basically throwing the dice and hoping that it goes back the way you want it to, but you have no idea how your bones are going to rejoin themselves. We have no idea what the long-term implications are.
Experts say it's about more than just vanity.
In your research, have you found a negative mental health impact from being involved in this community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a lot more negative mental health ramifications. They're developing body issues that they didn't have when they first entered the community. And they're seeing their body is fundamentally a very flawed and imperfect thing that is going to ruin their lives.
And looks maxing is popular in online forums that often perpetuate dangerous concepts like misogyny, nationalism, even racism.
Race absolutely influences how these men are judging attractiveness. So every man of color is recommended to improve his attractiveness by making himself appear more white.
But despite the controversy, the industry surrounding looks maxing is growing, with websites dedicated to selling supplements and products.
If you were talking to a parent of a 16-year-old who's worried about this trend, what would you tell them?
Putting in the emphasis that they deserve to be loved no matter how they look, I think, is probably the most important thing.
Stephen Romo joins us in studio. Steve, I have two questions for you. Is this sort of a fringe online trend, or is this becoming more and more popular?
Yeah, it certainly started off very fringe and has been around for a few years now. But some influencers like Clavicular have gone viral with some of these clips and has really brought this into the mainstream, specifically bone smashing, which we mentioned in this piece, people hitting their face with a hammer. It sounds pretty silly, but when you hear some of the more extreme things that they're going to, taking testosterone, which can mess up their fertility later in life, all of these things seem very short-sighted. Something we've worried about a lot for young women is their body image issues, but now it really seems like we need to worry about young men as well.
People, especially young men, trying to look their best. I mean, this has been around for decades, right? What's different now? Is it the social media aspect of it, and it's just going to extremes because of social media?
Yeah, it really seems like it. An expert we talked to for this piece was saying that it's really the online community of looks maxing. They have their own terminology, their own language in a way, and they have their own rating scale for rating each other's faces. It really is their own subculture that they've created. It's not just trying to look your best. It goes beyond that in a way with a bit of their own cultural spin.
You know what I'm going to start? News maxing.
Yeah, I made some corny joke, but see, this is what happens when you don't have guidance and you are basically following what the world wants and the standards of the world that's ever changing and is shallow, and there's really no depth there. It's unfortunate, and yeah, I never in my right mind ever thought to myself, let me, hit myself in the jaw to make my jaw regrow back so I could look like, I don't know, like I don't even have a point of reference for this. It's just sad. And I got another video of them explaining it as well. I promise that my live stream productions will get better. And thank you, Brother Eric, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful and unholy. That's basically the scriptures I was talking about, that as we go deeper and, as the times go on, that people will, basically indulge in narcissism without any guidance, without the Most High, without God's, direction, this is where people are heading. Doing unthinkable things to themselves. That's basically when vanity is, that's when vanity, the sin, is going to eventually, cause harm. There you go. This is the next video talking about looks maxing.
Okay, here's a question for you. Have you ever heard of looks maxing? Well, it's an online trend that's making waves on social media among boys and men. And our next guest is here to tell us all about it.
Please welcome to the show Assistant Professor of Social Work at the University of Toronto, Kyle Ganson. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. All right, we like to start with definitions and understanding. So what exactly is looks maxing?
Yeah, looks maxing is an online trend that really focuses on trying to optimize your physical appearance and your attractiveness. And of course, it's very much specific to young boys and men.
Interesting.
All right, so this is a new trend. And what ideal are they really trying to achieve?
In the looks maxing community, it really focuses on a facial structure that has really strong symmetry, really defined bone structure. So that's the facial appearance, but then there's also the body. So it could be highly muscular, that sort of V shape or broad shoulders, thinner waist. And then, of course, there is the social component, which is being able to actually engage in social conversations very effectively, and maintain social dynamics in that way.
Interesting. All right. So you say there are two forms of look maxing, soft maxing and hard maxing. So let's start with soft maxing. What is that?
Soft maxing would be seen as like lower risk, less extensive behaviors like facial massage, or this idea of mewing where you put your tongue on the top of your mouth to kind of try and shape your facial structure. It could be hair loss prevention, things of that nature. Whereas hard maxing is a lot more risky, extensive. It could be things like cosmetic surgery or Botox or limb lengthening or steroid use, or even this idea of bone smashing.
Bone smashing.
What is bone smashing?
Bone smashing?
Yeah, this is a bit of an extreme behavior where some people are taking like small little hammers and they're like gently hammering facial structures in order to shape and craft their jawline and their bone structure. Yes.
Wow. I mean, it's horrifying. I'm just curious. Like this has been a domain that I feel like has been the domain of women primarily for a long time. Maybe not bone smashing, but sort of this idea of trying to change the way that you look. Where did this start, would you say, for men? Where did this originate?
Yeah, I mean, certainly this idea of looks maxing comes a bit out of this manosphere, the involuntarily celibate or incel movement, or sort of deeper corners of the internet, which is now transformed very mainstream. You see it on TikTok, you see it on Reddit, you see it on Instagram. And so, and again, that's sort of an underlying theme that body image and body ideals for men are becoming much more prominent and more mainstream overall.
And what impact are you seeing this have on people?
There's very little research on what are the impacts of this. And most of the research that's been done is really focused on analyzing content on online forums of people who are engaging in this. I'm doing some research now, actually interviewing people who are engaging, and they talk about things like, body comparisons, facial comparisons, body dissatisfaction, and all that can lead to eating disorders or body dysmorphic disorder. And in fact, I'll say that there was actually in Ontario from 2002 to 2019, there was an over 400% increase in pediatric hospitalizations for boys. So this is really becoming a bigger issue that we need to be thinking about.
I mean, I'm going to ask about any potential positive sides, but what is the social impact of this kind of behavior?
Well, I think that's becoming much more focused on appearance as a primary mechanism of engagement, of status for young people, and particularly young boys. They see it as the only way to maybe date somebody or feel competent within their social environment.
Okay, you mentioned something earlier because you said this was potentially coming out of the incel movement, which is involuntary celibates. We've talked a little bit about them in the past, but and so this is in that which seems very misogynist as a movement. So this is quite the opposite. They are in fact trying to seek connection with women.
Yeah, but they're seeing their body and attractiveness as predetermined, right? That you, if you're attractive and you are, it's genetically based, right? Like you have what you have and that's it. But you can maximize it to be able to look as attractive as possible, to attract people, to be, have a higher social status, because we know that looks and appearance can get you things like a better job or more income or just more social status within your life.
Okay, I mean, I know we're all a little horrified right now, but is there any positive to
Yeah,
this?
I think people who do engage in it, again, more of the soft maxing, right? They feel maybe more confident. Maybe they do prevent some hair loss. Maybe they clean up their skin, less acne. So there's some general confidence, but I think attached to that is often the intense focus on their body, the body dissatisfaction or comparisons with others, which can lead to some more negative adverse effects.
Okay, so for people who might have people in their lives who might be targeted towards this kind of content, what are some warning signs to look out for when it comes to drawing the line between, quote unquote, healthy looks maxing versus, more extreme behaviors?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. It's very hard to create a line of what's problematic and what's more healthy. I think the keys are how much and how intense is the body dissatisfaction. Things like functional impairment, like if it's a young person, are their grades slipping? Are they no longer socializing? The intensity and frequency of.
All right, we got the point. Let me actually put the video in the chat if you want to look at the rest of it. But yeah, this is all what Vanity does. It makes you go off the deep end. It makes you basically harm yourself. Instead of looks maxing, we should be spirit maxing. We should be figuring out what God's will is for us and how we can attain that peace that passes all understanding, and really get a sense of purpose through him, because everything else really doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how you look when like I said, we're aging each day. This flesh is aging. What is going to stay? What are you going to basically have once you are out of the prime of your youth? Are you going to, make a difference with helping others? Are you going to, create something that, brings value to the world, or give something that gives glory to God instead of yourself? Because it's really, as things get worse in this country and society, people become more self-obsessed over things that don't really matter. And the next thing that's prevalent and is crazy is men are now obsessed with their height, because they feel like now on social media they see women talking about they only want men who are 6 feet tall or taller. And there are men going to extreme lengths to get taller, and really it's ridiculous and sad, because I never really even thought of height when I was growing up, or when I was a teenager, or my my age group. I'm 36. I'm probably 5'8" on a good day, and I would never change that to make people like me, or for me to get women. It's ridiculous. The Most High made us all the way we are, and we are wonderfully made. It's not, he didn't make a mistake. I don't know, what's the easier way to do this instead of doing each screen like this? It's kind of, let me share the window. Yeah, there. I think that's the better way. Get rid of that, and actually, we're not going to do that. Give me 1 second. That way, no. just do it the way I was doing it before, because I have to adjust my screen.
Whitler joins us now live from his Riverdale gym, where he's working on his flexibility and his strength. New at 6, people all over the world are enamored by a Riverdale man.
He just returned from Turkey, where he had surgery to grow from 5'5" to 6 feet tall.
Wow. Fox 5's Alex Whitler joins us now live from his Riverdale gym, where he's working on his flexibility and his strength. Alex?
Yeah, good evening to both of you. Some people view their height as either a blessing or a curse. Well, Denzel Sigger says he always knew he was a little bit smaller, but he found himself saying those 2 words Skee-Lo made a music hit. I wish. He wished he was a little bit taller, but not to be a baller.
I don't do sports.
Not even to make all the pretty women holler, but he needed someone to make magic, like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. All to go from about this height to that. But no, seriously, in these heels, I'm about 5'5", and that's how tall Denzel Sigger was about 6 months ago. Now he stands at 6 feet.
I wanted to become the best version of myself, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And for me, that included height.
It all started in December in Turkey when Siggers underwent his first of what will be 6 surgeries.
Surgically cut the bone, they put a rod in it, and they connect a device outside the leg that connects to the rod inside the leg, and you turn a key on it every day for 90 days.
He did that twice, once on his lower leg, again on his upper, and it cost about $80K overseas versus the estimated $150,000 he would have spent in the States.
It's called Live Life Taller. They have a rehabilitation center. They help you get back on your feet, and you're there the entire time you go through the surgery. Whereas when I was going to do it in America, they pretty much do all the facilities I found. They do the surgery and send you home.
Originally from Chicago, he's in the Atlanta area to visit his daughter and heal with his mom by his side. Sigger spends much of his time gaining muscle back in the gym.
And this is another 4 sets of 20. A lot of people approach me in the gym just to tell me like they're proud of me. They don't know what's going on. They just say, hey man, I'm proud of you. Like keep going, don't stop pushing. Little do they know I did it to myself.
But he's faced plenty of criticism.
I think some people say love what God gave you. I think God blessed us with the ability to change things that we're not so happy about.
He says he's always had the personality. Now he has the height to match.
Yeah, that sounds very sad. I believe God didn't, tell us to get surgery so we could get taller. So that will give glory to him. Or that will, help us grow spiritually. I don't know where that is in the word. It's sad, honestly. And I'm pretty sure this gentleman will realize the people that he attracts now probably are just as vain or way more vain than him. So what did he really accomplish by getting that surgery other than to basically try to make people like him for his height? It's just sad. And also, I have another video talking more about leg lengthening and the surgery and the risks and the dangers of doing it, because, are you going to absolutely know if you're going to walk again correctly? He had to learn how to walk. He had to do all this physical therapy just for what? Just so people could think, just so he could, for girls that to like him that maybe wouldn't give him, maybe who aren't even really, like him for him or his personality.
Surgery done, and now I'm 5'7".
There are potentially devastating complications.
It is kind of crazy. You're breaking both of your femurs or I broke both of my femurs to get this surgery.
So I basically had just 2 sticks of bone and a little metal bar in between them.
So your bones effectively didn't grow back together?
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah.
We have to be very careful about what we do and how it's done.
Yeah, if it goes wrong, if it goes catastrophically wrong.
It is a wild thing that you're doing, But if it's going to make you happier in the long run, then it's worth it.
A lot of people would probably like to be a few inches taller. From dating shows
Everyone told dark and handsome.
to countless articles linking size and success, being small is seen as a big disadvantage and something you can't do much about. Until now. Limb lengthening surgery is a long, expensive and painful undertaking, which nonetheless is growing in popularity, including here in the UK. Costing anything up to an eye-watering £120,000, it claims to be able to help patients grow by a staggering 13 centimetres taller. It was pioneered by this man, Gavril Elizarov, a Soviet doctor treating injured soldiers returning from the Second World War. Techniques have changed during the last 70 years, but many of the principles remain the same. A hole is drilled into the leg bone, which is then literally broken in two. A metal rod is put inside and held in place by a number of screws. It's this rod which is lengthened a little bit each day, extending until the patient reaches their desired height and their bones are finally allowed to heal back together. The surgery was once reserved for people with a serious injury or deformity, but an increasing number of people are having the procedure simply because they just don't like their height. It's available in more than a dozen countries, from Germany, the US, Russia, Serbia, India, South Korea, Turkey, Greece, Italy, and even here in the UK. As a 5'7" mountain of a man myself, I can understand why people might be tempted by this kind of surgery. But taking such drastic measures for just a few inches does feel a bit extreme. Not to mention the time, the pain, and the sheer cost of the procedure, there's also the very real risk of serious complications. But some people are willing to take those risks. I want to meet these people to find out what led them to getting the surgery, what their experiences have been, and how their lives have changed, for better or for worse.
So I guess I started thinking about it a little bit more my senior year of high school, and like women generally don't date guys that are shorter than them. So it's kind of tough to be a guy and approach a girl that's taller than you. It's like sometimes I would fester on not being able to find a wife or thinking that girls would just like never look at me when we were out in public.
So how have you changed physically? And then as a consequence, how has your life changed?
So I started off at 5'4" is when I got the surgery done, and now I'm 5'7". And I'm not the tallest person in the room, but in terms of like perspective, like I still definitely think about height. I just think about it a lot less, and I don't think about it as me being too short anymore.
Obviously, you were really aware of the potential consequences and that they can be quite severe before you got the surgery. Were you scared before getting it, or how are you feeling?
I think you would be naive to say that you weren't scared. It is kind of crazy. You're breaking both of your femurs broke both of my femurs to get this surgery. So it's like, you kind of have to rationalize that it is a wild thing that you're doing. But if it's going to make you happier in the long run, then it's worth it.
If you're sleeping in a position like this, you got to hear about this thing. There's this new contour pillow out.
Before I let Sam go, I had a final question. It's one thing having the surgery at a world-leading hospital, but what about the people going to the cheaper clinics, popping up all over the world?
There are people that get these surgeries done by doctors who really don't know what they're doing, and like, that's a scary thing, you know? It's not something that you can just have done and not think about 4 months, 6 months after the surgery. You have to really know what's going on and still be in contact with your doctor after that, so that you can get the full benefits and rehabilitation that you actually want to get out of the surgery.
I can empathize completely with wanting to do something about your height, but is it really worth putting your body directly in harm's way? According to my research, more and more people are deciding it is worth it. Several clinics are performing leg lengthening operations at 5 times the rate they were just 10 years ago, and hundreds of people are having it done each year. To find out more, I'm on my way to visit Dr. Goodyear, a renowned orthopaedic surgeon in London. Dr. Goodyear specialises in limb reconstruction for people with an injury or deformity. But what I'm interested in is his experience treating people with complications from leg lengthening procedures they've had abroad.
So people, when faced with a choice of going somewhere I hesitate you as reputable, but somewhere with very experienced limb deformity or limb reconstruction surgical expertise versus getting it done on the cheap. I don't think people are necessarily made aware of all the things that can go wrong, that often do go wrong, while seeking out a limb lengthening department. I have had a patient who particularly sticks in my mind who had significant lengthening of his tibias and ended up with rapid onset arthritis. Others who spent months and months and months doing the rehab and eventually lost their their income stream, ended up fairly bad off. So it's moderate to high risk surgery. But again, the patients often consider the outcome and the rewards to be worth it.
I also wanted to know why he thinks someone who's otherwise physically healthy might opt for such serious surgery.
Most people who I've come across who've wanted cosmetic lengthening actually have quite often psychological problems, body dysmorphic disorders, and other problems where they have had years of depression and introspection about their perceived disability from their height. So I think we're getting to the realms of, are we actually treating a body dysmorphic disorder, or are we actually giving people a lifestyle choice? So that boundary between what's a therapeutic intervention for people with body dysmorphic disorder who could be helped by lengthening versus people who want a lifestyle choice to be a bit taller is often a difficult and blurred boundary.
In order to get a sense of just how serious a procedure it is, I wanted to speak with someone who had met with complications. I got chatting to a British man who had the surgery 5 years ago, growing from 5'6" to 5'9". Barney's situation is different. He had a condition which meant he required surgery to straighten his legs. He then opted to have the leg lengthening procedure at the same time, reassured that it could all be done together and it wouldn't affect his recovery time. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with problems ever since.
So can you describe what your complications were?
Yeah, okay. So really my only complication was the fact that my bone separation was happening faster than my bone growth would happen. So basically my bones were being pulled apart at quite a fast rate, but my bone growth wasn't there. So therefore on the x-rays you could sort of see it, sort of like, you know, the gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and nothing. So I basically had just 2 sticks of bone and a little metal bar in between hand.
So your bones effectively didn't grow back together?
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah. You go in and you're left with the belief that, oh, it's only going to be 3 months out of my life, and you cater for that. And so you get so many people who book this time, have a surgery, get spat out the other side, and when they go to China, when they go to Japan, Hong Kong, then it's totally global. But their employer is like, you're not fit, you can't come back. And that's when like mortgage repayments suddenly start collapsing, they're unemployed. And not only are they unemployed, they're unemployable. Yeah, when things go wrong, then you kind of do need a support network. Fortunately, I managed it. I was fortunate, but yeah, if it goes wrong, it goes catastrophic.
Yeah, that's crazy, honestly. I just want to keep on highlighting different... I don't know why I got off the stage, but yeah, this is just, I just wanted today highlight different trends that people are following that are based in vanity and is causing more depression, more desperation, instead of seeking God and asking him what your will is, what his will is for you, because it's perfect and good. And once you transform your mind to it, you will have peace. It takes some work on your part, but you have to have faith and he will do the rest. But it takes, a willing to and want to, instead of following the trends of this world that are obviously causing people harm and are causing people to, lose livelihoods over looking good for whatever. Like I said, like how many years do we really have here on this earth to be worried about our height or to be worried about, having the perfect waistline and things like that? I do actually have a couple more videos Another thing that's very, pervasive, or you could see it everywhere, is this GL1P thing, basically Ozempic and Zepbound, where people are taking medications to help themselves lose weight. And obviously, it's a shortcut. Instead of working out and eating right, people are taking these GLP-1 drugs that are basically leaving them with all crazy types of complications.
Those popular injectable weight loss drugs are easy to use and backed by doctors and proven to help. But the popularity of the do-it-yourself injections has a serious side effect. 2 Wants to Know's Kevin Kennedy found the number of people overdosing on weight loss drugs has skyrocketed, with thousands calling poison control centers last year alone.
For more than 20 years, Leslie Gammon spent her days in a classroom. Once a teacher, always a teacher.
I said, I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Even in retirement, her passion to inform and educate remains. Sometimes the lesson taught come from personal experience.
I would not put that on my worst enemy.
In late 2025, Leslie unknowingly became a case study for hundreds of thousands.
I blame myself for not being more educated, I think.
She began taking an injectable weight loss drug in 2025. She never met with a doctor, not even on Zoom. Almost every medical decision made and sent by email.
All I had was a phone call, but it was a recording that says, go online here, do this and this and this.
Leslie used the virtual healthcare company Amble. It connected her with a doctor who initially prescribed a low-dose weekly semaglutide. But after 2 shots, Gammon realized it wasn't working.
I woke up probably like around midnight, 1 o'clock, and I was like, dude, I want a pizza. I mean, I was hungry.
She says that's when a doctor with Amble doubled the strength of the medication and told her to fill up her syringe with 5 times more medicine.
I contacted them. She's like, just follow the doctor's orders. This is the max dose that you can take.
Skeptical.
That's what I took.
Leslie says she stopped short of taking the full amount.
Every 30 minutes, I was throwing up.
She rushed to the emergency room.
I was weak, dehydrated.
Doctors pumped her body with IVs and anti-nausea medication.
They were more worried about my kidneys and my liver.
Leslie was in a fight with her body, the weight loss medication overwhelming her system.
I do remember asking the doctor, just put me in a coma. I can't do this. It hurts.
She'd remain in the hospital for several days, a diagnosis later provided.
They said, yeah, you overdosed.
Statistics from the National Poison Data Center, America's Poison Center, show a concerning trend. Since 2019, there's been a nearly 1,500% increase in GLP-1 calls related to overdose or side effects, with almost 23,000 cases nationwide in that time.
If I'd have taken the full dose, they don't know where I would have been.
3 months later, Leslie is still recovering. Fortunate this wasn't worse.
This is the button you would push.
Wanting to better understand more about these drugs, we spoke with Dr. David Vollinger with Novant Health.
They're a great tool that needs to be used as a tool.
Dr. Vollinger fully supports the use of injectables as part of a comprehensive weight loss approach. He has seen positive results in his patients.
Of course, obviously, supports it because he gets kickbacks from it and he gets paid for each person he puts on these medications. Again, the way to lose weight and to sustain it is to eat healthy and work out. There's no shortcut to that unless you're, in the minority that has a very rare condition, something, some hormonal imbalance that could only be, solved with medication. And giving the disclaimer, I am not a medical professional, and this is used for educational purposes, fair use. You shouldn't be using Ozempic to lose weight. There's so many side effects. People's digestion is never right after or the same. You lose tons of muscle mass, and you get like that. The people are making, people show different celebrities on this drug. Actually, I'm just gonna show you that now. You can watch the rest of this video where, it looks like their face doesn't match up with their body because they've lost so much weight, and they either haven't, done the right things like workout so they can maintain the mass, and have, at the same rate they're losing fat. I'll just show that video real quick. This stuff is nothing to play with. This, again, I am a proponent of looking better, but also feeling healthier, but at what cost? Not taking GL1P drugs as a shortcut. Same thing as if, a man, both, I know men and women use GLP-1, or, it's basically like steroids. All the complications of steroids aren't worth looking bigger or gaining more muscle. It's all vanity. And next time I'm gonna have a more seamless way of sharing these videos. And this is the video I'm talking about. This is what people look like on Ozempic after taking it.
Ozempic is ruining these celebrities' lives. Lock in with me, I'll show you why. Banned footage doesn't always mean illegal. Sometimes it just means the cameras caught something publicists really wish you had.
Like Jonah Hill, I remember watching his, obviously it's like one of his biggest movies when I was in high school. What was that called? Superbad. He was a very round fellow. Now he's on Ozempic, and look how big his head is.
Didn't notice.
His body.
And lately, what keeps slipping through the cracks is what rapid weight loss medications like Ozempic appear to be doing to celebrities' bodies in real time. Because this isn't just about getting thinner, it's about faces collapsing, skin aging overnight, muscle disappearing, and bodies looking unwell. And before anyone panics, yes, Ozempic has legitimate medical uses, but what we're talking about here is the cosmetic, off-label, fast-track use in Hollywood and the very visible consequences. Let's start with the term doctors themselves now use and call Ozempic face, which is sunken cheeks, hollowed temples, sagging skin that suddenly looks 10 years older. One of the most talked about examples, Sharon Osbourne. She's been brutally honest, saying she lost too much weight too fast and couldn't stop losing it once she started. Her face visibly changed. It's sharper, it's gaunter, and even she admitted it aged her dramatically. Then there's Jessica Simpson. Fans were stunned by her recent appearances, not because weight loss is bad, but because of how extreme and sudden it kind of looked. Her frame appeared very frail, her face almost unrecognizable compared to just a year earlier. The conversation online wasn't, wow, she looks great. It was, is she okay? And that's a theme you're going to hear a lot. Another name that keeps coming up is Khloe Kardashian. Now, the Kardashians will never confirm Ozempic ever, but viewers noticed a dramatic shift in her body composition, not just thinner, but less muscle, less, softness, and more sharpness in places that used to look very strong and athletic. Doctors have pointed out that rapid weight loss medications don't just burn fat, they actually burn muscle too, especially if you're not eating enough to maintain it. Kelly Osbourne is another case where the change was fast and intense. She's spoken openly about weight loss medication, but fans noticed that her face in particular looked drastically older almost overnight. That's, one of the risks doctors warn about when facial fat disappears too quickly. Skin doesn't have time to adjust. You don't look snatched. You kind of look exhausted. Then there's Elon Musk, not exactly Hollywood, but still very public. He openly admitted using a weight loss medication, and while he joked about it online, people noticed something else: muscle loss, posture changes, and a very thinner, less solid frame. Again, not inherently bad, but it shows that this isn't a magic fat eraser. It changes the entire body. Chelsea Handler has also spoken candidly, admitting she was prescribed Ozempic without even realizing it at first. She later stopped, saying she didn't need it and felt it wasn't right for her. And that's important because it shows how casually these medications were being kind of handed out, even to people who didn't medically qualify. Doctors are now warning that rapid weight loss can lead to hair thinning, hormonal disruptions, fatigue, and in some cases, long-term metabolic damage. And yet Hollywood keeps pushing the narrative that this is just discipline or, clean living. Bodies don't shrink this fast naturally, though. Faces don't collapse in 6 months from Pilates and green juice. But let me know your thoughts on this. I'm your host, Ashley. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, those people look like The Walking Dead zombies. And this is the last video basically talking about it as well, but I'm going to play it briefly.
I have kept my finger on the pulse of the whole field of gut-derived hormones, which is what we talk about with these weight loss drugs, almost since their beginning. My dissertation work was in a lab, one of the first funded labs to look at these drugs, although in the context of diabetes, and then it's blossomed into the context in the use of obesity. This is the class of drug, GLP-1 receptor agonist. First of all, what is GLP-1? GLP-1 is a hormone that we all make from our guts. Our small intestine will make GLP-1. We're making it all the time to varying degrees. Some things we eat will result in a higher GLP-1. Sometimes it'll be a lower GLP-1. Like, for example, a paper just published a few months ago found that if you have people eat the exact same meal of calories, but lower carb or higher carb, the lower carb version of the meal will increase GLP-1 3 times higher in the blood than the high carb version of the meal.
Which means that they'll feel...
Yeah, so then what's the point? Who cares about GLP-1? One of GLP-1's main effects is to tell the brain that we're full.
Okay, so more GLP-1,
more satiety. Yeah, more GLP-1, less hunger, which is very impactful. In fact, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a study that was published in Humans a while ago. They took obese humans and lean humans and had them eat fat and found that, like pure fat, and they found that the GLP-1 response was the same. Whether you were lean or obese, you had the same amount of GLP-1. That would suggest that whether you're lean or obese, both of your brains in both of these populations will have the fat and have the same sense of I'm full. Because it was matched with GLP-1. However, when they had these same groups eat pure carbohydrate, the lean group had a robust GLP-1 response, big GLP-1. In other words, they would eat the carbohydrate and say, I'm full, because GLP-1 would tell them so. However, in the obese group, they ate that exact same amount of carbohydrate and they had an almost negligible GLP-1 effect.
They were still hungry.
In other words, they would eat the same amount of carbohydrate as their lean counterpart and then just say, okay, what's next? I'm still hungry. And so it is prudent to focus on GLP-1. GLP-1 is a powerful hormone that does have an effect on human health. What I feel inclined to comment on is the negative side effects, because the only thing we hear about is social media influencers extolling the benefits. And hey, I'm on this weight loss drug and I've lost 50 pounds. Someone has to be the voice that says, yeah, but what about this? And there are some significant but what abouts when it comes to these weight loss drugs. One of them is the loss of muscle mass or lean mass. You've mentioned a couple papers from the New England Journal of Medicine, a paper a couple years ago from what was called the Step 5 trials looking at these drugs. They found that for every 6 pounds of fat a person was losing on these drugs, they were losing 4 pounds of fat-free mass or lean mass. So 40% of the weight they were losing on these drugs is coming from lean mass, like including muscle and bone. So there are now case reports of young, healthy women who are overweight, who go on the drug for some period of time, and after they get diagnosed with osteoporosis, where they have eroded their bone health, they're losing lean mass. So again,
they've eroded their bone health.
Yeah, so 40% of the weight that people are losing on these drugs appears to, at these high doses, is coming from lean mass. So fat-free mass, including muscle and bone. The reason I find that so troubling is that in the UK, at 2 years on the drug, 69% of people get off the drug. They don't want to be on it anymore. And now imagine this individual. Imagine, if you will, a 60-year-old woman who's been on the drug. I take that age and that sex on purpose because it's so hard for her to grow new muscle and bone. Let's say she's been on this drug for a year and she's lost 20 kilos. Well, 40% of that will have come from her lean mass, and 60% of it came from her fat. And then when she gets off the drug, now all of a sudden, her lean mass, her muscle and bone, that's never coming back. The muscle and bone that she has lost is gone forever, probably at that age, because we can't, after the age of 60, good luck developing new muscle and bone. But what can come back rapidly is the fat mass. And so at 2 years, she decides to get off the drug, which again, about 70% of people do. they're going to gain that fat back, but they're not going to gain their muscle and bone back. That is a significant loss that may be, depending on their age, gone forever.
I was scrolling on Twitter the other day and I saw a video going viral, which is now being reported in a bunch of news publications. It was yesterday that I saw this video going viral, and I'm going to play this video to you. It's from a singer called Avery, and she talks about her experience with Ozempic.
I just left the doctor's office. I went to get a checkup because I've been off of Ozempic for 2 months now, and I just wanted to see if my body was in better condition, if there were any permanent damages. Kind of in shock right now because I wasn't expecting this, but I guess Ozempic can cause bone density loss, and I didn't think that that would happen to me because I was only on it for a year. But I have significant bone loss. I have osteoporosis and osteopenia, so that, I don't know, there's like several of them that I have. I wasn't expecting that, but that's what happens if you use Ozempic for weight loss and you lose too much weight.
Yeah, I wonder. She's so lean. I wouldn't be surprised if she had it even worse than normal, because we see it has become, I don't mean to suggest this is the case for her, but you do see people using these weight loss drugs who are already very lean.
I mean, I've got a picture of her here, and she does look incredibly lean already.
But see, this is what people are doing. They're basically using it to facilitate an eating disorder in the people who are lean. This has become so common that there are complaints saying that, lean, healthy people are getting the prescription and people who are obese and diabetic aren't because of shortages. The leaner, I've seen this. I know someone personally who was already a perfectly lean, healthy woman, and then she now looks sickly. And what caused it? Well, she wasn't lean enough. And when you take enough of that drug that you just have no more hunger because of how it's acting at your brain, you do just stop eating. And the malnutrition, at least in part, is going to cause a loss of lean mass. But that also it is even further exacerbated by the mental health problems, where there was a paper recently published with the use of these drugs, finding that people, when they begin the drug, their risk of suicidal thoughts doubles. It goes up by over 100%. And their risk of major depression triples. And so as much as we talk about these drugs and we say the drug helps you control your cravings, what it's doing is perhaps reducing your craving for everything. That while you are eating less food, which is resulting in the weight loss, you also are not interested as much in exercise as you used to be, which is going to make it even easier for you to lose your muscle and bone. You're also less interested in hobbies like going to play pickleball with your friends or going out and...
All right, I put the rest of that video in the chat, and it's been an hour now. Thank you for those who have came in and viewed this live stream. I just wanted to, touch upon different topics, basically about vanity and how dangerous it can be, and how basically for whatever you're searching for, seek God and his word to help you through whatever you're going through. And if you're feeling inadequate or in some area or something that is troubling you, you should pray about it and really figure out what he wants you to do. Because I, created this channel to help people, and I'm going to put my website in the chat, and you could read my ebook is on there, and different services I provide to help others who are trying to get into shape and want to do it the correct way instead of using GLP-1s, and basically also help with your spirituality, because basically the one important thing that exercise has given me is discipline. Obviously, being healthy and looking good to whatever perspective that is, that's subjective. But the discipline it gives you, and the ability it gives you to do other things and to be consistent is what has really helped me. So with that, I am done with this live. I hope it is edifying for those who viewed it and will view it later. And thank you, and God bless to everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.